S&OP Community Weekly Podcast. Brought to you by Ahmed Khalid and Ahmed Al-Hamamsi from Middle East. Our Global S&OP Community Podcast mission is to build a global community from supply chain, marketing, trade marketing, sales and finance all over the world, where everyone's voice could be heard and listened. Every week, we host a new episode with great thought leader in the S&OP industry. We believe that one word, one story, or one conversation could open up the light in the screen of your consciousness and you'll never be the same again. We discuss hot and trending topics with our subject matter experts by asking the right questions that uncover their valuable experience in our show. You can visit our website ahmedkhaled.co. Stay tuned every week with our Global S&OP Community podcast. Hey,
Hello, and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tell us, please, where are you tuning in from? We're so happy to have you today in our Global S&OP Community. As you know, our mission is, of course, is to build a global community from not only from supply chain, from marketing, from trade marketing, from finance, where everyone's voice is heard and everyone's voice is listened to. Our mission, of course, we are interviewing CEOs, we're interviewing executives, we're interviewing thought leaders in S&OP field to uncover their valuable experience to our big S&OP community, of course. We are so happy, of course, we are here every Sunday, and we're so happy every Sunday we're having you and we're having a big thought leader with us, and Ahmed will introduce our great thought leader today.
Thank you, Hamamsi, for the great introduction. And we are so excited today because we have a very unique episode with a very unique guest, as you said.
Yes.
And just to remind our guests today that our slogan is always a knowledge that you will not find in books, philosophies from our thought leaders that you will never find in books because of their extensive years and years of experience. And let's just, as Hamam said, let us know where are you from, and we'll just send you some greetings to your country and your amazing city in case. And let's jump into today's episode. Is considered is like one of the pain points inside many organizations. And the main topic that we will speak about is why does S&OP fail inside many organizations? And let me tell you something. It's easy to blame the process. It's easy just to blame the technology. But do you know why it's easy to blame the process and technology? Because neither the process nor the technology have tongues to just defend themselves. But it's very hard to blame ourselves. It's very, very hard to blame ourselves. And the simple reason is that we are the ones who execute the process and technology. For instance, if we have a company that doesn't know anything about S&OP, the question that will come into your mind, how long does it take to execute it in the right way? What are the factors that influence the success in that period? What could be also the obstacles and the barriers in the way of implementation? More and more of those kind of questions will be asked today to our subject matter expert in the S&OP. And our guest today is Dr. Yehia Labib. So Yehia Labib is the Customer Care and Logistics Director for Mars, Middle East, and Africa. He played the end-to-end game inside the supply chain, just from inside the factory, plan side, including demand planning, supply planning, and material planning. And if I talk about the deliver side and return side, including logistics and customer service, this is just beside his electrifying experience across multinational companies with different cultures. Companies like Unilever, Coca-Cola, and Mars in Middle East and Africa. He had the chance to lead S&OP across North Africa, Levant countries, and GCC countries. He has, I'm telling you, unbeatable experience in managing cross-functional behaviors inside the organization by his extensive business experience. He was involved in revamping and redesigning the S&OP implementation 5 times in the Middle East. Can you just imagine with me? 5 times. I keep saying that we have today a movable encyclopedia with us today. So may I ask you, and as usual, please let's welcome together Dr. Yehia Labib. And before just welcoming Yehia, let's give him the normal applause. Dr. Yehia,
Hello, yeah.
Hello. The
welcome to
famous
the show.
Ahmed.
Welcome to the show. We are so glad to have you today. As I said, that we have today an movable encyclopedia because of your amazing experience, and I know that many people they are waiting for this episode since a long time. Welcome to the show, Yahya.
Thank you, Jensen, and actually very humbled by your kind words. I hope so. You're raising the bar, so I hope this session adds value to your guests and audiences, and I hope we have a great session. And thanks for the
Definitely,
invite.
true.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
Let's just before jumping into our topic, let's
take
send some
our
greetings.
audience. Yeah, a lot
Yes,
of people
please.
already engaging.
Yes,
Amr
our friend
Turkestani.
Turkestani,
Yeah.
so excited for this episode. Thank you, Amur.
Yes,
Thank
you.
you so much for tuning in. Our usual friend,
Diana Walsh from Ireland.
from
Thank you
Ireland.
for joining.
Thank you, Diana, for joining and tuning in. Our friend Marwa Ramadan, a great guest, Yahya Labib. Go,
Agreed.
go, go. Thank you, Marwa. Thank you so much. Our friend Amir Lotfi, good luck, great job. Thank you so much, Amir, for tuning in. For sure. Our friend Ligia, greetings from
Thank
Costa
you for
Rica.
joining from Costa Rica. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our friend Ryan Azab, thank you so much for tuning in, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Our friend Luis from Guatemala, thank you so much. Our friend
Thank you for
and
joining
our
from
B10,
Guatemala.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Olga.
Friend also Olga.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Olga.
Thank you, Olga, for tuning in. Well, we have Hussam Aouf. Looking forward to a great session. Yahya Labi, thank you so
Hussam.
much. Oh, we have the legend, Hussein Masri, the S&OP legend. Thank you so much,
Thank
Hussein.
you. Thank
You're
you.
missed.
Thank you, Hussein.
Thank you. We have great guests today. Our friend Aziz Abazi. Good evening. Thank you so
Aziz.
much for tuning in. Our friend Taibaji, great to see you all.
Thank you, Taibaji,
Thank you
for joining.
so much. We have here Amr Al Mansouri. Looking forward to this show. Thank you so much, Amr, for tuning in. I think we have too many people just send
it's great engagement
yes.
already before the show.
Yes.
Mina Edward, thank you for so much.
Mina Edward, say my name. I said it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our friend Shaima, looking forward indeed. And lastly, our friend Malak, interesting topic. Thank you so much, guys. I'll keep saying it. We have a movable encyclopedia today. Our subject matter expert, Yehia Labib. Feel free. I put it, ask your questions, whatever you want. We'll jump into your questions. But let's firstly move the wheel by this question. I think it's a very broad question. We'll ask it, which is around our topic. Why does S&OP fail? Easy.
Simple
very
one.
Easy. Very
easy.
Yeah. So actually, So I'll start with maybe taking a step back. So why actually organizations put in place S&OP or embrace S&OP? And that's a question I when I have a discussion with a friend who's implementing in a company, in an organization, I ask him, so why are you doing it? Because when you take the decision to implement S&OP, that's a crucial decision. And it means you're actually shifting the whole style of work. So putting in place S&OP, I don't want to dwell a lot on the process and details, but just for the sake of time, but you're gonna manage your business with this process. And that's the first element that you need to be conscious about, because otherwise you will have two parallel processes or three parallel processes or four parallel processes. So by signing in for S&OP, you're actually saying, you know what, this is going to be my backbone process. This is how I will deploy my strategy. This is how I will revisit and assess how I'm doing against my strategy. So this is the starting point. So if you go to a step further, so to do that, you need three important elements. So you need the process, of course. You need the data that helps you to run this process. And of course, you need the people. And under people comes a lot of things like you touched on, Ahmed. So behaviors, capabilities, talent, etc. And all of those come under an umbrella of strategy. So where do we want to head? And accordingly, these are the pillars that you use. So basically, if one of those pillars is not working, this fails. So I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible. So I'll give examples. If you talk data, do you have what it takes in terms of demand planning? Do you have the right demand planning elements that enables you to provide the right outlooks that would enable you to take the right decisions? That's number one. Do you have the right horizon? Do you have the data and accordingly the systems that would help you have like a 2-year, 3-year rolling outlook? So that's another element, because one of the key characteristics, you need to look 4 months and beyond. So it's a medium long-term process. So if you get trapped into short term, then you're not doing anything. And more important, do we have the right means of assessing our assumptions that we use to build those plans and data? So that's very important, because again, you need to implement a process, or actually organizations need a process that would be dynamic and quick in taking decisions. So if you take time to crunch data and you take time to find the data, then you're not actually you're putting a burden on the organization. And there's a very important element. You have the forums of S&OP. That's the stage. This is where you go on stage. It's like a show. But then you have the backstage, which is the feeders going into those, and these are processes in itself. These are the details, and that's the cooking of the process when you put a design. So if the feeders are not working, then you know what? You don't have the right output. And accordingly, you might end into having more of a info sharing forum that's not adding any value. While one of the key characteristics, you need to actually take decisions. So those are decision-making processes and forums. So basically, you need to find, if I'm sitting and chairing, I'm the owner of this forum. If I'm a sales director or I'm a supply chain director, I need to sit in my review, getting proposals and records, and accordingly taking decisions. So how can you build the data and your feeders to enable this decision-making process? And then comes the interesting and an important part: people. So people is very important, and I would tell you, like 70% of success of a process of S&OP implementation or a process is basically on people and behaviors, and 30% on design and data. That's based on my personal humble experience. You can have the best process, you can have the best
software,
data, software, etc. But then if you have the wrong behaviors, the wrong discipline, and by people here, I'm not only talking, by the way, because the classical thing we would go into, you know what, management doesn't believe, and No, people
Yeah.
involves everyone.
Yeah.
People involves how management are empowering S&OP, because it starts with empowering S&OP and believing in S&OP. Because I've seen it in different examples. You might need to tick the box of having this process, but then actually you don't believe in it. You actually run the business in other meetings or in
True.
corridor talks.
Yes.
And then you have the people element of being disciplined, being capable, and trained the right way. So those are the pillars in a nutshell. And again, you need to provide benefit to the organization and show a benefit for the organization to believe. And accordingly, it's a two-way thing. So if people and management see that you actually are adding benefit by whatever you're putting in place, then you start to get buy-in. And accordingly, when you get buy-in, you get engagement, and accordingly you start improve. And but the most important thing, and the classical trap that happens, is people think that S&OP is responsible for numbers. S&OP is not responsible for numbers. S&OP is actually a tool to enable you
Enabler. Yeah.
to assess your plans, to assess your strategy, and to correct course. So it provides you visibility of your gaps, gap closure recommendations, and uh, uh, um, where are we in terms of plan. And actually, S&OP might indicate that you have a wrong plan in place in the first place. This doesn't mean that the process is not working. It's actually, you need to visualize it as a GPS. It's a GPS that tells you, you know what, you're not moving in the right direction. You need to correct course. Or something major might have happened to assumptions. Not necessarily the plan is wrong. Something like COVID. No one predicted COVID. So you cannot say, I mean, it's a process thing. It gives you an indication, and accordingly, you correct course. So that's in a nutshell. I hope this answers your question. And back to you guys.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Yahya. I think that everything that you have said, it's pouring into one place, which is people. If we come back, as I said at the beginning, it's easy to blame the process. It's easy to blame the technology. It's easy to blame the softwares used. But the last thing that it's hard to blame is ourselves. And I'll give you just an example. One of the resistance, if I see the executives, they don't take the sponsorship for the S&OP, it will never work. Why? Everyone will blame the S&OP process, the process itself. And when it comes to just giving a direction without listening, and I see it from a real power, people, they need to listen, and especially the executives. Sometimes that I know, I understand the pressure is coming top down, but if people up, they don't listen to the people that they are running the tactical decisions, they're running the operations, you will never reach to your strategy. And at the end of the day, if you don't listen, easily, if this is the target, I will build my plans accordingly based on your target, that I will not show you the gaps, which you cannot work in a proactive way. You will be in a reactive way. Once it happened, we will start questioning why it happened, and we come in this closed loop. So I see it, everything, as you said, it's all about people. If you listen, if you understand, if you give clarity, if you just observe people and give them the direction and keep it along the way, everything will be on the right way. But just blaming the process, it's easy. Everyone can blame the process. It will never work. So totally
100%.
100%.
Totally, totally. That's
100%.
that's uh that's 100%. Yeah, and Yahya, it was very comprehensive answer. Hard to add to it, but I'll add, like you said, the culture of the company is very important. The vision of the company. If the company doesn't have a vision, it will not work. And the culture, as I said, is very important. Some companies, a lot of silos. Breaking these silos, it's very hard through this sponsorship, like Ahmed saying, from the management, trying to change their behavior, the way they are doing the plan. So to convince them that S&OP is not coming here to judge them or judge their capabilities. It's an enabler, like you said, enabler to achieve the plan, or to show the GPS, like you said, to show them the direction, the right direction, how to reach the numbers, how to make it happen.
Actually,
Exactly.
100%. And actually, a build on what you said is actually S&OP can help you change the culture in any organization.
Yes.
So if you stick to the behaviors and the concepts and what actually the right behaviors to run this process, this actually changes mindsets. And I would take, for example, silos. You touched on silos.
Yeah.
If you actually push the organization and the culture to work in a collaborative way by having these forums and making sure that data is shared in a transparent way, because that's a very
Yes.
important
Very
element, back to
important.
Ahmed's point on,
Yeah.
you know what, I have a target, I'll not mention any risks or gaps, I'll just put the
Yes.
number and that's it. So if you actually stick to those behaviors, you would actually change any culture. It's a mean of changing your culture
Yeah.
into the right way. However, as you rightly said, it needs to be embraced by management, and accordingly it will flow. But then, if what if management embraces and it doesn't work? Because sometimes it happens, and that's
Yeah.
something that we need to be conscious of. So
Exactly.
they would believe, but then you start putting in place stuff that is very complicated, that is more of info sharing versus decision making, and is not helping. So automatically you would actually move from engagement to disengagement of your audience, and accordingly you lose, and it becomes a redundant I mean, it becomes two
Right?
parallel processes. It becomes a burden on your employees or on your teams, and accordingly it doesn't work.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that we have many questions. First question,
Let's
we'll
take
jump
one.
into the first question. Yes. Our friend Alejo, he's asking, do you think the key points, data downloaded, and the strategy or tactic decisions? He's talking about these two.
So so maybe if we can elaborate more just to make sure I answer well. So is it strategic or tactical?
I
Is the
think,
question?
yeah, this is what
Yeah,
he means. I think strategy versus tactical decisions. Where should
actually both.
we go? Yeah.
Actually, both. So S&OP takes both tactical and strategic decisions, because you need to take tactical decisions that would really affect your strategy. So they're both linked. You need to take tactical, and by tactical, but you need to stick to the right horizon. And that's the important thing.
Mhm.
So because sometimes the trap we fall in, you take tactical within this month. That's not S&OP. That's a
Yeah.
short-term management of our
Or
challenges.
maximum next month,
Operations.
for example. Next
Exactly.
month plan. Yeah.
Exactly, but tactical stuff, I would give an example of a tactical. So you
6
have
months.
competition who are doing something, so you would need to think long term how we will come back there. This might be within this year, so this
Mm.
might be within the coming 8 months or 9 months. So that's something that's very tactical. You might take some like a year
Readjust, yes.
a year
Mm.
adjust, but yeah, the short answer is tactical and strategic.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, S and OP, it's you have a strategy at the top, right? And you have operations. And S and OP, it is all the defined tactical decisions that you're taking to connect the strategy with the operations, which at the
Spot
end of
on.
the day, it's demand and
The
supply
bridge.
balancing. Yes,
That
balancing
balance.
the
Yeah.
demand supply. Just this at the end of the day.
And this
Again,
is where
yes.
you assess your strategy, by the way. If you find that you're taking tactical decisions that are not in line or linked to your strategy, then you know what? You need to revisit your strategy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Sometimes ego of companies, they don't do that. Yeah, it's very hard for them to like to change their strategy or admit that they need to change their vision. So sometimes egos,
It's
you
a
know,
100%, but
yeah,
it's a balance. So it's also so it's not 100% right to change your strategy with the
yeah,
first challenge.
yes,
But
exactly.
it's very important. I mean, it's a thin line between, you know what, I is the strategy working or not? So giving it time,
Mm,
and as you rightly said, having the ego or not admitting that we have an issue with our strategy.
yes,
So that's it's a bit yeah. I mean, I feel for like executive GMs and CEOs, because within these times that we're facing, it's
it's
not
hard.
easy. Things are
Yeah,
very dynamic,
yes,
but definitely it needs a bit of humbleness in terms of
Yes.
assessing where are we heading and we're taking the right decision.
Thank you, Yahya. Thank you, Ahmed. We'll jump into the next question
Let's go.
from our lovely brother Ahmed. So he's
Mansalawi.
asking, yes, he's asking one of the famous issues which breaks the S&OP process is any organization poor demand and planning inputs. The question here, how to solve this issue? Yahya Labib and Ahmed Khalid and Ahmed Hamamsi as well. So
Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah. Who will go first? Our expert, Yahya, go first.
for sure.
Yeah. So I would say SNOP is a mean of identifying the issue in demand planning. So actually, you can use SNOP to put the spotlight on demand planning and accordingly find the resolution and take the right action. Because within the process, you would show, you know what, we agreed on certain numbers, or this was the agreed number, but we didn't achieve because we didn't forecast well. So accordingly, demand would be, issues would be visible, and accordingly you take actions. Taking actions on demand planning, we need to, separate between S&OP and demand planning. It's like you have issues within supply planning. It's like you have issues within logistics management. That's something that needs to be tackled separately. I can definitely say a lot on how to fix demand planning, but this would consume some of the time. But the short
Definitely.
answer is you identify the gap based on your forecast accuracy, bias, and how you're performing. And accordingly, you put the action plan to improve demand planning, similar to any area that needs improvement.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely, definitely. I'll take to Manzalawi also some points, as Yahya said, maybe for demand planning, maybe focus on the 80-20. Always it works for make sure that you put the right product classification. Look at where you are forecasting, on which level, on product family level or on country level. Look at the communication between marketing, sales, and the planning department, demand planning. How long, how much, how many times they are talking. What is the communication level between them? What is the activities happening? What is the percentage of the new product in your forecast? All these things, and try to classify your forecasting accuracy and to focus in order to improve your forecasting accuracy. These are some of the key points. Quickly, as Yahya said, it's a topic that can take 5 episodes, for example.
Aries, I know. Yes. So I'll tell you my humble just experience on that point. I believe if you're talking about poor demand planning inputs, fix the capability of your demand planning. Because again, I see from humble experience, if you have a capable demand planning, your category and your business will be somewhere else. If you have a poor demand planning capabilities, I'm telling it will be working like pipeline. Whatever in, it will be out. So my humble advice, start by fixing the fundamentals. Just before doing anything, fix the fundamentals. I'll tell you from experience, if you have a company that is running by 70% the promotional intensity and 30% as a baseline, your historical sales will not solve any problem. So the phasing of your activities will shape your demand and influence your demand 100%. So don't rely too much on the history. And this is one of the pitfalls that I see from demand planning. They rely only in just the history. This is one. So run your baseline, agree by which level, at which level you are running it, format level, family level, category level, whatever brand level. So whatever you will agree with your sales department. I don't know how it's structured. Is it regional? Is it by channel? Whatever. But you have to keep the accountability of baseline and just the sales baseline by I would say family and the channel. Let's say run it, and this is the fundamental. You just have the carpet that you can speak about. This is just the fixing the base, and then inside your S&OP you can speak about the activities. And from my also experience, you have to have a tracking separately your regular sales with the activity sales. If you don't have this activity sales, you will be annihilated beneath the challenge that you have, and you will not have an accurate data. So fix the fundamentals, put the baseline, keep the accountability, speak with people, understand the strategies, understand your activities by channel, by whatever forecasting unit you have. And from that point, you can assess your forecast accuracy and understand what happened in the past and rectify it in the future. This is just my humble advice.
And just one tip for demand planning: don't go into much details. The more the deeper the levels, the higher the error. So I don't do not do it very top line, but then you need to assess based on your organization and how you manage the process. But going into more data, people
100%.
think that it would add value. It actually adds less value.
100%. And Yehia, just to add to your point, it's valid 100% because, again, if you can see the accumulated forecast errors on SQ level, you see it's too much, okay? But again, definitely, if we think about it, we are doing the forecast at a family level or a format level, at a channel level, let's say. I'm just assuming that. If the forecast at this level is biased, definitely the SQs under this format, it will be
Will
biased.
be in it,
So
yeah, of course.
we did this, and I know this from my friends across many companies. You will see that 100% from the forecast error on SQ level, 80% from it, if you will be able to fix it if you fix it at the forecasting unit that you talk about it with the sales, not the SQ level. So don't, as you said, don't dig deep into SQ level because you will not understand what's happening. Fix the fundamentals in your S&OP, drive the accountability. Don't overcomplicate the process. This is just the beginning, I say. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
Yes, I think we have many questions.
Yeah,
We'll jump
let's take some.
into, yes, we'll jump for sure. Our friend Amr Al Mansouri.
Out of experience, what are your views on S&OP team reporting line into supply chain versus into commercial/sales?
Very good.
Interesting.
Very good question.
Coming in from a strong leader, Amr.
Yeah.
So I think the short answer, I believe S&OP needs to be reporting directly into the CEO, the GM. So that's
yes.
the most, I mean,
Excellent. Yes.
the most reliable setup or the most beneficial setup, because
Yes.
S&OP needs to gain its power and
Separate
empowerment
entity.
from the
Yes.
top management. So that would be the best option. I would say the second best option would be supply chain.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not happening, then supply chain would be the second best option, basically because supply chain are usually taking care of stocks, taking care of accuracy. Accuracy hurts them, and not achieving hurts supply chain.
Exactly.
So basically, they would be keen for S&OP to succeed. Unfortunately, I'm not for having it under sales.
Under sales. Yes.
Yes,
Totally.
Not because there are
That's
no good leaders in sales, but
it's bias.
I mean, to
Bias.
avoid the conflict of interest.
big bias,
Yes.
big bias and conflict. And I like this question a lot because usually when it is under, if it like you said, the best is to be directly reporting to the CEO, and the CEO is involved, and he is pushing the process to work if it's the first time for the process to work, and creating the discipline of the process and empowering the S&OP team, so that everybody knows that this S&OP team is there to run the process and is there. It's not biased to the supply chain functional goals and to the sales goals. So that's why the best is a separate. It's like a separate entity in the organization. Maybe like you said, yes, I run it through, of course, supply chain, because supply chain have knowledge about supply and demand. They have knowledge about capacities. Usually sales, they don't have knowledge about capacities, about constraints, about all that. So when demand planning is working with supply chain, and they have both the knowledge, the commercial side and the supply side, so they can create the balance between demand and supply. But again, sometimes this happens also. There are goals, there are bias between the goals and supply chain. That this is, we don't want to report this, we don't want to show this. So again, it's for me, like you said, it's the separate entity that's directly reporting to CEOs, the best option.
Yes. Thank
Yes.
you, Yahya. Thank you, Ahmed. Think we missed our friend Marwa. So she is asking, within the current volatility in the supply chain, COVID ripple effect, how to move an organization from focusing primarily on short term to medium into long term focus.
Yes. Very good question. Very good,
Yeah.
good question. Again, I would say, I would say something that might be a surprise for some of the audience, but taking COVID as an example, not the current situation, but I would say the time when COVID hit us last year at the
Yeah.
peak of it. This was a time. It was not the time of S&OP in general.
Mm.
So this was the time to say, you know what, we will not play S&P. We need to put it aside now, and we need to work very,
Execution.
very short term
Mm.
and tactical
Reactive.
and
Mm.
and reactive,
Mm.
because this was an unprecedented situation that no one faced
Exactly.
before in the globe. So back then, this was the right thing to do, and I was actually doing S&OP back then, and the focus was shifted into more tactical short term. I didn't
Yeah.
invest much
Mhm.
into thinking longer term until we built the intelligence and the assumptions and some trends based on what's happening. Took around 3, 4, 5 months. We started to predict, and we started to focus on medium longer term. So that's again how to move it from focusing on short term to medium long term. So if it's something like COVID, because here in Mario's question it's more COVID.
COVID.
The first route was basically focus short term and forget about longer term now.
Exactly.
But then once we build assumptions and understanding of what's happening, and we build some trends, we start shifting gradually into medium long term, and it takes some change of mindset. So again, this requires the S&OP person who's leading to orchestrate this. So when are we going to shift this, and how? Because otherwise you would be trapped in the short term for good.
Yes.
So how you can, you know what, we will do this now because it's a medium long
Mm.
term and we don't know the medium long term. Let's do this now, and once
Mm.
we build our strategies, we start building for the future.
Perfect. You can hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Can I give you something, Yahya? معلش.
sure.
I think it's an amazing
Thanks, Ahmed.
answer. It's
Yes.
it's to the point. If you allow me just to add something under what the umbrella that you have said, it's when COVID-19 specifically just attacked all the businesses. I think two, if we're talking about the short term, as you said, that we are being reactive, two things that the business were looking at it. One, securing the cash flow. Two, making sure that the business continuity is along the way. So this is just from the short term third term plan. So when we have these challenges, all the organization, most organizations, they were looking into collecting their cash in from their the due cash, I would say, even from their customers, to make sure that they can continue. And at the same time, they were, as you said, they were more near into the consumer even and shopper to understand what's going on, because this is something new. They don't understand how it looks like and how it would run. Part from the long term, I think the most resilient organization and the most flexible organization, they got many learnings from that we are all vulnerable, especially supply chain will be always vulnerable. So how you can respond and how you can shift your long-term strategy. I'll give you like an example in that point, which is shifting from globalization somehow into localization and globalization somehow, because this will make sure that even if you have at a tier one supplier, tier two, tier three, if it's not local supplier, but you will have some buffer to respond inside your country, if without any barriers and the cross borders. So I think many organizations, they optimize, or just they try to balance between their margins gains and their inventory gains and their cash flow. So going from globalization into localization, and I see many organizations they took this decision since long time. Once they understand what's happening with their COVID-19, they start to localize. They invest too much with their supplier localization, but they need to make sure that their business continuity is along the way till the end. This is just
100%, 100%. And actually, what you said is a spot on example of changing strategies. So everyone changed
exactly it is.
strategies within this era, and it was a game of scenario planning. So I would say
Exactly.
you've been putting scenarios, and you know what? If this happens, we're gonna push this button. If this happened, we're gonna push this button.
Yes.
This was the best that can be done, and as you rightly said, there were a lot of shifts in terms of suppliers, in terms of how we manage business.
Yeah.
It was also, I think, game of flexibility for some organizations. I like that some organizations started to focus too much online, or they were already starting online because they have risk management and they have adopting new technologies. They are fast in adopting new technologies, and this saved some businesses big time. And actually, some, of course, multiplied their business during COVID. And some who are not active online actually vanished. Some businesses closed because they were not active online. I'm talking especially in retail. So it depends, of course, on the business, and this is kind of flexibility was very important during COVID.
For sure, for sure.
Let's take
100%.
another question. We have a lot of
Yes,
questions
our
today. Yeah.
our legend Hussein Masri, he's
I think
asking.
he knows the answer. He should answer here, Hussein.
Yes, definitely. So Hussein is asking, what are the key interpersonal skills for a strong S&OP leader? How did you manage to deal with the different stakeholders?
Yes, good one.
Yeah, Hussein is putting me under the spot. So, so no, it's a really good question because you can have the best again. You can have the best process, the best everything, but the S&OP leader plays a great role, and you need. I mean, you need certain capabilities and certain interpersonal skills that would actually enable doing this role. So someone who's like a thought leader in a certain area might not be able to do these because
Exactly.
it's a role that require a lot of influence without authority. So you need to
Yes.
be able to influence the whole organization. So all actually functions are your stakeholders, and you're actually at equal distances from each and every one. So you need to ensure that you have the right influence without authority. So that's very important. Number two, you need command skills and you need standing alone capabilities because you will step into crucial conversations most of the time. So we were just talking about numbers that are not coming, numbers that do not make sense, assumptions that do not make sense. So again, that's the role of the person who's leading this process to put the right discussions on, so to put the elephant on the table, in other words.
Yeah.
So you know what? This is not working. These numbers are not being achieved. These numbers are not making sense. So that's another important interpersonal skill. A third and more and very important thing is you need to build trust. So people need to trust not only your capabilities, but need to trust your intentions and need to trust that whatever you're doing is actually in the benefit of the business and you create the safe environment. So that's very important because S&OP without a safe environment, it becomes very tricky and people lose faith. They lose faith in the person leading and in the process. Then you're
Yes.
actually not adding any value. So these are the main interpersonal skills, of course, with the right communication skills. So when to communicate, when to over communicate, what's the right way of communicating and cascading the information across the organization.
100%. 100%. If you allow me, just I'll add something new. It's, I think the S&OP leader, if I can imagine this guy, he is a business psychologist by the meaning. A guy that he understand the functions, how it operates. I would say the basics, finance, how it works, and their personal interest, how it looks like, trade marketing, supply chain, and sales, how it looks like. And this guy is playing a very collaborative way and understand the interest for each one of them, and how to translate this interest into one interest, which is the game of the business, the strategy itself. So I'm thinking just loudly, this guy should be a business psychologist. He understand how to play the games and how to play a bigger games with the strategy of the business. And I think from also a humble point of view, I see S&OP leaders, they're very good. They're very good in a vertical relationship. They're very good in just reporting to their bosses or the CEO or the MD or the VP, and also their reportees. They are very good in managing this. But when it comes to the horizontal relationship, it's nothing. And at the end of the day, the S&OP leader, it's all about, as you said, communication. It's all about engagement. It's all about data. It's all about speed of data information. So I think it's all about communication. It's all about understanding people interest, and just have a credibility and let people be bold to tell the truth and convert all of these challenges into opportunity to serve the business.
100%, and
Great.
50% of it, of building this trust and credibility, is actually, as you said, if you're managing vertically only, and that's a classical issue that S&OP leaders fall into. You basically, you're the voice of management, and if you're the voice of management, you lose the whole organization. Trust me. So if you manage to be standing alone, having your the right, as you said, the right vision in terms of, you know what, it's the benefit for everyone, and in a collaborative way, and making sure we put issues on the table and we resolve those, and you take the right stands whenever needed, then automatically you have actually completed 50% of the journey, because you have the buy-in of everyone. People will actually help you succeed.
Exactly.
Yes, and we said it's all about people. You're right. So you need to build the trust with people. You don't need to just be another voice of top management. You're right, 100%.
Definitely. Thank you, Yehia. Thank you, Ahmed, for your inputs. We'll jump into next. We have many questions. I hope that we can.
I think we need Yehia again. Yeah. But
So,
definitely, if we cannot catch all the questions to our lovely audience, we will be able to. They can message Yehia, or we will try to respond. We'll try to respond after the episode.
100%. We can actually take those questions, answer them, and reply back to all of the audience.
Definitely. Thank you, Yehia and Ahmed. Aliju, our friend, is asking, what are the most KPIs to assess S&OP accuracy?
Good question. Good questions. Good question. So basically, your first KPI is how are you doing versus your plan. So that's your first KPI. So you have your plan where it comes to revenue, it comes to your bottom line, it comes to your cash. So those are KPIs, financial KPIs, that would let you know where are you heading and what are the gaps and where are we heading. You have two important elements. Back to the point on demand planning, that affect how we're forecasting. So your forecast accuracy, your forecast bias, and how accurate your demand plans are. Those are important accuracy KPIs. And you have also the health of like we said, your strategy. So assessing your strategy and your plans in terms of those strategy, how they're linked, and there should be regular reviews of how our strategies and how we call it OGSMs, so your objectives, are being met. So projects objectives. So these reviews need to will give you an assessment of where are we in terms of process. And again, it helps you identify your gap closure recommendations, or we need to correct course from plan standpoint, or we need to take a different route.
Definitely.
Sure. Thank you, Yehia. I think I have some troubles with my internet, but I hope
I thought you were playing around with
No, not at all. So don't take it. So
it's okay. It's okay.
I apologize for that.
No issues.
So I will jump into the next question.
Yes.
Thank you, Yahya. So Ahmad Qasim, he's asking, could we move the accountability of forecast from planning team? Will sales to minimize inaccurate forecast?
So I think I think the question here is more to move demand planning into sales, right? If I'm not
Accountability
mistaken.
of forecast from planning team with sales to minimize the inaccurate forecast.
Yes. So actually, I would tell you this
It's a good question.
would be a very tricky one. It's a very good question,
Mm.
but I'm not for it. So planning needs, again, demand planning is kind of similar. They need to have their own independence. Having demand planning under sales has it's a double-edged thing. So yes,
Mhm.
if you look at it from this view, you know what? They are responsible for sales. They would give the most accurate numbers. Well, if you look at it from the other side, well, you will not get the right number. You'll get whatever they want to achieve, or your numbers get biased.
Yeah.
So that's a my point of view. Planning needs to be away from sales to provide it the right governance and the right independence. Uh, because if you leave it to sales, it goes back to the behaviors of people. So you might
The-
find a sales team who are believers in the right number, and you might find others. So again, when you provide someone something that has a bit of conflict of interest, it doesn't help. So no, I think it should stay away from
Yeah,
sales.
True.
definitely. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Yahya, so much. We'll try to cover as many questions as we can. Our friend Mina Edward, he's asking how S&OP rebirthed for a big settled company. It reached its peak earlier, and while growing, it missed the automation and the new technology around. Instead of, it was settled and satisfied.
If I get the question right, it's more of a company had the S&OP doing well, and then they lost it
They
as
lost it
things evolved. And
as time went, yeah, by. I
yes,
The
think
automation
this
and new
was me.
technology.
yes. So actually, it's a very good question. So uh, I mentioned pillars that help this process succeed. So now one important element of this process to succeed, and usually it happens, and I've seen it happen when people change. If you don't have the proper
Mm.
documentation and the proper processes that are written and
Documented
available,
and signed and available, yeah.
people change, and you lose knowledge, and you lose the right foundation from people's standpoint. So that's number one. So documentation is number one that would help revive or ensure things are sustainable. Number two, there's something here on automation and new technology. Definitely automation and new technology would add value, but that's not a key. uh, so I mean, if people are now using more advanced systems, definitely it would help and make things more smooth from S&OP standpoint. But this does not, even if you're using your old system, but you have the right process and the right tools and the right behaviors and the right data, you shouldn't fall, or things should not fall apart. It's all about ensuring the knowledge is there, documenting this knowledge, ensuring when people change roles or people change assignments, you get people with the right talent and the right capability to replace. So these would be my points in terms of making sure that the process is sustained.
I like
Thank you,
this one,
Yahya.
especially when I will add here when management changes, when some management change or acquisition or something happened that make turbulence. If we don't have the process well defined, like you said, documented and all that, it will get lost. So
100%.
Yes.
I
Yes.
share my
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. I think that you need to drink water because you talked, I know. So I will jump into the next question. So our friend Yasin Abdullah, he's asking how to avoid the anticipated delays of supplying the raw material due to the current crisis of booking and shipment. I think it's more related into transportation
Mhm.
logistics.
Yeah.
Yes, and
100%.
logistics.
But happy to answer. So Ahmed touched on it at the beginning. So you need to think out of the box in terms of your supplier database. So that's number one. So how can you actually depend more on local suppliers that are actually closer to home? So that's number one. Number two, how can you play your inventory game in a different way? So you might need to raise a bit your inventory. You might think about other options in terms of how you phase your shipments, how you phase your GIT, your goods in transit. So again, it's a game of material planning and planning, of course, while taking into consideration your working capital, because you cannot just carry inventory and that's it and hit your working capital. So that's another element. Number three, you need to think about your logistics network in general. So you might change your logistics network. For example, you used to source from certain markets. If there's other markets that
Yeah.
have more pleasant shipping routes that are not really affected, because now the shipping lanes and routes are really affecting.
The margins,
So you
yes.
might exactly. So you might have a factory in another market that does not witness a higher cost like the other one, or the lane does not witness a lot of delays. So I would play within these elements. These are the elements that would really help, and maybe later on we can have another session on dealing with supply
Definitely.
chain and logistics. That's my game at the
Another.
moment.
Definitely,
Great.
definitely. Thank you, Yahya. It's amazing answer. We'll jump into the next question. Time is flying as usual. I cannot believe.
Yeah.
So, our friend Hussam Auf, he's asking, how do you see the evolution of S&OP with the current post-COVID-19 trends in e-commerce? And do you think any of the current S&OP practice need to be updated to cope with the trends?
Yes, very good question. So trends after, so e-commerce is growing like there's no tomorrow. So if I talk about even our markets in the Middle East, Africa, especially, and specifically in the GCC, we've seen tremendous growth. Of course, the scale is small, so absolute wise, it's not big, but growth percentage wise, it is growing. So that's number one. I think e-commerce needs to be a focus, because this will continue with us, and the behaviors of consumers are shifting. Everyone is now more shifting to, we got you even after the things were opening up, and people became out in the streets again. We got used to ordering online more. I mean, if I would reflect on myself, I started to use
Yes.
online more. So it was an important opportunity. So this needs to, my view, it needs to be a channel that is really part of our strategies. So if you're building a strategy within S&OP, and you're tracking, you need to track this channel. You need to have the right drivers in terms of building or growing these channels, and accordingly do whatever is needed, because we will be heading this way. That's the future. It You need to deal with it as any channel within S&OP. It's nothing different. It's just the focus and the investment and the intention.
I echo here your voice because it's all about the convenience. I think digital commerce and all that, and this is the trend. And you can even now see offers on websites that you don't see in the stores. So they are pushing it more. The big companies even are pushing more the offers towards those channels, to grow this channel. And of course, you have still you have a lot of people working from home, working hybrid. So I think this trend is here to stay for some time. I hope, of
100%.
course, this new news also about the new what's happening and the new COVID virus and all that. I hope it doesn't materialize, or this will grow again more and more.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, I
100%.
like what you said, that to embed this strategy inside S&OP, because many
Yes.
organizations, they don't understand the importance of e-commerce or d-commerce at the same time. Why? Because they see it's very small channel. Actually, if they look at it from a margin point of view, because if you don't have the transportation network and the capabilities in terms of transportation planning, you will pay a lot for transportation. That's why they try to avoid, we have this minimum order value and they put the burden on this small channel to grow. But I think strategically, most organizations, they understand the importance of that, because it will recently cannibalize from your existing channel, and this will grow. So if you don't compete right now, if you don't focus on this channel right now, even if it's somehow negative margin for your products, you will lose in the long term. That's why it's a strategical decision. Some organization, they take a decision on it.
100%, 100%.
Yes.
Very good
Thank you.
question, I say, from Hussam Auf. Thank you,
Yes,
Hussam.
thank you,
Yes.
Hussam. We'll jump into the last question, I would say.
Yes, Ahmed.
Our friend Ahmad Al Manzalawi is asking, what is the most important KPI for S&OP, which we can measure the effectiveness of the system and that we are on the right path?
I think I touched on that in a previous question. So we discussed the KPIs, the few KPIs that it's kind of similar. If it's
Yes,
the number one, it would be the plan, of course, and the plan. But I think we can take another one, because I think we answered this
definitely.
in the
Thank
other one.
you, Ahmad. Thank you, Yahya. So I think it's also mostly the same question from Hafiza Dahoud. What are the most critical factors to consider while analyzing demand planning?
So critical factors while analyzing demand planning is basically you need to look into, I mean, how bias is doing, how forecast accuracy, so forecast accuracy is doing. You need to look into how your short term is deviating versus your plans. So if basically your demand plans every month is out to lunch, you're not achieving, and you have a big bias or a major drop in forecast accuracy, then you have a critical issue in demand planning. As simple as that. This would be my short answer.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Yahya, again. Time, as usual, is flying. I think the engagement today was to the
Over
maximum. The
amazing,
peak,
yeah, to
yeah.
the maximum
Yes,
level. We took
yes,
so many
and
questions, and still.
still
So
it's going on and
thanks,
on.
thanks to our audience, really, and of course,
Yes,
Yahya made amazing effort in this hour.
yes.
Gents,
That's why I asked you to drink water, because I know that 90% from the talks, it's just you. You are just running the show. So
no,
we'd
very
like to
happy.
thank you. Really, we'd like
Very
to thank
happy,
you.
guys, to be with you today. Thanks for the opportunity. Was great. It was very engaging. On the contrary, I liked the questions. I was
Yeah,
happy to answer, and great session. Thank you, guys,
Thank you
thank
and
you
so
thanks
so
to
much,
the
much,
Yahya,
Yahya.
audience.
for your
Thank you
valuable
so much.
time. And again, let's have another session. Maybe it will be a panel, something. Let's discuss it together and have another one in the near future, inshallah. Thank you so
And
much
again,
for your time.
we will try to take all the questions, of course, and answer the questions for our audience. We are here for you, of course. It's knowledge you will not find in books. And thank you, Yahya, again for your time. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Thank
Ahmed.
you so
Thank you.
much. Have
Thank
a
you,
great
guys.
day. Bye
You
Thank
bye.
too.
you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.